To the panel, just a quick question. Mobiles and payment systems. As far as I can see, the only two practical ones are mobiles and Google Checkout and mobiles and PayPal. This gets over the addressing of where to go and send the gear to. But do you have any further comments on methods of payment that might be coming up in the next couple of years?
I'd say to you that there's no clear winner yet in the mobile payment space. There are at least 5 different avenues that you can go down, from mobile at the point of purchase, mobile being the point of purchase. You can look at a whole range of things from the two that you mentioned, but you can also look at things like Square, which is adding in a possibility. It's also worth looking at kind of, closed payment systems as well, like Starbucks use. Starbucks have got $1 billion prepaid on their app and on their plastic cards. Money that consumers have given them in advance of buying their product. So I would say that there's a pretty good mobile payment success story. I know that eBay last year announced they did over $1 billion of mobile trade as well, and PayPal did the same. So there's already a huge success in mobile payments yet. But I would argue there's no clear winner yet of the technology space, and maybe there won't be.
Just take it slightly lateral from that question. We've got mobile payment on mobile, but what about mobile as an opportunity for payment when you've got things like near-field communication that's coming through as a way to actually physically use your phone in the real world as opposed to via a mobile channel?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't work in that part of our business, so I'm just going to qualify. I'm not an expert in NFC, but we're going to be seeing more and more of that over the next months and years. We're already getting used to the fact that we're waiving and paying for small items. So I suspect with the new handsets that are coming on board, as people start to get those in, more and more retailers will start to use that application that's built into the phone. Obviously O2 has quite a large intent to try and take advantage of near-field communication and really get people not having to reach for their wallets, but to use the phone that's probably already in their hand or more accessible than their wallets or their purses at the bottom of their bags or wherever they're keeping them. The other thing I would say about payment through mobile, though, is Amazon obviously started off as a fantastic internet company for fixed web, and it's been hugely successful as a mobile channel because it got its payments right and it got its user experience right, and customers didn't need to worry about entering credit card details once they got to the mobile phone because they were already stored and ready to go. So it's about thinking about how you adapt your current user experiences through those channels and where your customers have started and where they might finish. You don't necessarily need to build something new and swanky and different. You just need to think about how you translate it into the new environment.
Fabulous. Okay. Next question.
Hi, we've all been reading in the last few months about how retailers have embraced mobile apps. We've got John Lewis, Debenhams, Marks and Spencer's using digital. I just want to know if the panel could cite us an example of a council, not a shopping centre, who have embraced mobile apps to rejuvenate the high street.
Okay, and that, it plays to a few points that you made, Nick, and also you, Paul, in terms of proximity and the fact that if somebody walks past your shop, you've got a chance to try and tap into them. Any thoughts on that? Yes.
So what I would say to you is, as a more general point, quite often in the mobile world, people think that you've got to create Angry Birds or the next Barclays water slide to do something interesting in the mobile space. But I very often find that utility beats entertainment quite a lot of the time. So coming up with ways that you can be useful through a mobile device is actually has a lot more longevity than 10 minutes worth of entertaining on a consumer commute. So it wouldn't surprise me at all to see more local authorities and others using it, just in the same way that we're becoming increasingly used to banks having apps and having instant access to our money and what we want to know about our money. There's also the potential for us to want to have instant access to information about councillors, and I've seen lots and lots of apps for MPs and for political parties, which is instant access to who is my MP, what do they think about the following subjects, what have they said about the following things, what is their majority at the last election. There are all kinds of things that are more information based, so I would expect to see a lot more authorities get it. However, they're going to need some help to get there, because they're not geared up for it. As you'll rightly say, lots of local councils just starting to say the internet. Now there's a thing, and rather than pieces of paper. But when they get their heads around the idea of utility, not entertainment, and they think about the way in which mobile can be used for cost saving, I think we'll see it take off in a much bigger way.
Brilliant, thanks Paul. And it's that usefulness, isn't it? So if you take insurance companies where you can actually start to log an insurance claim if you have an accident at the scene of the accident, use your phone to take photos. Is that what it's all about to the rest of the panel then, in terms of if we can just be useful and help serve people, the rest will start to follow because we'll become more comfortable with using a mobile phone and interacting?
I'd say for me in terms of utilities, I mean British Gas, their app is absolutely brilliant. From the point of view that, I mean, they've thought about everything in terms of invariably your gas meter or electric meter is in a cupboard. So they've got a switch on the app that uses the torch on your and the light on your camera, so you can actually then input the digits and then submit your reading. So it's clearly what they're trying to do is again, it's a customer service piece, but ultimately it's trying to reduce cost to their business, because everybody who phones into British Gas is a cost to them for the call. So therefore, if they can make people self-serve, which mobile gives them the opportunity, then absolutely why not? So for me, utilities is really important, because if you think in terms of the climate we're in terms and cost and the government and the squeezing on budgets and what have you, that's a real opportunity. And I think that if they're not thinking about it, then they should be, and it won't be long before they are.
Thank you. I have got a question, but also just to follow up on that, I recently heard of a council who had developed an app for potholes. So you would take a photo of the pothole, it would show them the photo, which showed them the depth, and you didn't have to measure it, and then geotags it as well. So that's possibly an example. My question is more, I come from a B2B environment, and it was really about whether the importance and the value of mobile is as important for B2B as it is to B2C environments. It's obviously quite clear that it's important in those environments, and also whether you have any good examples of mobile done well in B2B.
I'll tackle it from a very basic level, which is it really depends again on first principles of marketing. You know, what are we trying to achieve? What is the business? What is the opportunity? What are your B2B customers doing? And how can you apply mobile in that role? So it's a bit of a lame answer, but it's really the good, honest answer, which says, you know, just to your example earlier, Paul, to the farmer MD, there's definitely a case. You can probably normally create a case in most instances where you can say, yeah, I can see where the role of mobile might play in this particular example.
Let me give you two examples. One of my colleagues in New York has sent me a package this afternoon. I will track it on my DHL app on here to find out where it is. I don't have to pick the phone up, do anything else. At the moment I'm thinking about it, at the point of impulse, that point of impulse thing isn't restricted to I'm seeing an advert. It's I'm thinking of the thing now and I want to know the answer to that information now. So I will be able to track this parcel making its way across. Again, in a kind of sorry. I can be a business customer. Why, you know, tracking that? That just happens to be someone using the business to do it. Equally, I've seen haulage companies that are using a mobile, not a mobile application, but they're just using text, so that when the driver has dropped off his load, he texts in complete. The system recognises where he is and then tells the next person, driver has just finished at the next place, is now on his way to you. If you imagine imagine if Dixons or some of those transferred that to the white goods space, and instead of making you wait in for 6 hours, you actually knew that a driver was on his way within an hour because he had already completed the previous go. So I think there's a lot of things that are transferable from that environment. If you're really interested in, and you can tell me what space you work in later on, I challenge anybody here to find an industry where I can't give you an example of where mobile is.
Challenge Paul, okay.
That's the last time I did that, someone in the room put their hand up and said, I want to know how the armed forces are using it. While I was scratching my head, someone in the front row said, do you mind if I answer it for you? I said, yeah, sure, go ahead, be my guest, I'll answer it afterwards. He said, yeah, I'm from the Lebanon, and we use a mobile app to notify each other when the Syrian army has made incursions across our border, and we geotag it. Fantastic. What he said, that's what I was going to come up with too.
Perfect. Sorry, I'm going to just go slightly, I'll come to you in a second, Rob. Just actually, if you broaden it out, and I'm from a B2B background, one of the things that everybody in B2B should be thinking about for mobile is as an email channel. So looking at the stats to say how many, and from our side, we have a number of clients and a number of countries where they can recognise, as most email systems can, which device is picking up and receiving the emails. That's an obvious kind of stepping stone to say, well, okay, before we start running off into the hills with these apps and mobile sites, is mobile important to us because people are already consuming email, and therefore which kind of emails are we seeing?
So it's clear there are loads of examples this evening, great examples of where mobile is being used really well. Andy, you make the point about first principles. It's about making your business more efficient, which means either saving money or making money. So here's the point. 23% of media time spent on mobile, 2% of budget on mobile. So what's got to change to see the money coming, back to Paul's point, where the consumers are spending their time?
So, Rob, I mean, I still think there's learning. I still think there's actually understanding the importance of mobile from the very top. I think that in terms of the organisation, in any organisation, it needs to come from the top in terms of actually seeing the impact of mobile and again the traffic and the tracking, so the measurement piece. So with digital we can measure everything, right? And we're bombarded with data. It's about making sure that we're looking at the right things and we're presenting the right things back. I suppose this year for me is critical, whereby we will be moving more and more budget for mobile and making sure that we capture mobile, because you know, we've got 70-75% penetration of smartphones, and people are using them, as you quite rightly say, Rob. So from my perspective, it's about an education, and it's about educating at the top, because these people have been in very, very powerful positions, and mobile, I suppose, in some respects, has probably crept up on them. They didn't understand what it is, and now suddenly it's freaking out in terms of, oh my God, we've got to do something, and do something quick, because there's no point necessarily just saying, okay, let's just go and put more money into mobile if the mobile experience is poor. Absolutely not.
And Andy, sorry, just to interject, it just plays to something that Paul said earlier. Is there not the risk here, perhaps, Paul, that there's the flip side, the knee-jerk reaction of the, you know, that you said the chairman or the MD, that I describe as my 16-year-old son syndrome. It's, well, my 16-year-old son's always doing this, why aren't we doing this? Is that a risk, the flip side, that money's being ploughed into mobile for the wrong reasons because there isn't the strategy, there is just the knee-jerk panic that we have to do it from a...
I suppose that there could be. I mean, just to kind of react to Rob's point a little bit, I've seen that number trotted out, you know, in almost every other person's mobile presentation recently. That thing that came out from Mary Meeker, that there's a big gap between the time that we as consumers are spending in mobile to the amount of money that's spent in there. There isn't necessarily a direct correlation between the amount of time you spend in the media and the amount of product that is bought, or as a result of that. If there was, then people wouldn't be spending so much of their media budget still in print, despite the fact that print has got an ever falling audience and an ever falling usage. It still has its usage. So there is a little bit of money being spent in mobile to, you know, probably inappropriately by people thinking about the technology first. I would say there's a whole raft of things that need to change in order to make people be able to spend more. And he's right that, you know, top of the list is education, which is why, you know, a trade association like ours exists. We spend our time as best we can doing kind of education and evangelizing the industry and the channel and what it can do, and bringing the mobile message to a wider audience rather than kind of restricting it to the technology world, which is where it lives most of the time.
I'm just going to play out some of the stats. So I have live the answers from the panel. So those of you that use the app either tonight or pre-tonight, there were 3 questions that were set. The first one was, do you see mobile as a key channel for your organisation in 2013? And 93% said yes, 7% said no, and not sure said nothing. So vast majority of people agree. Then the second question, does your organisation have a mobile marketing strategy? Yes, 63%, no, 37%. And lastly, are you planning to optimise your communication for mobile in 2013? And we have yes at 59%, yes already have at 38%, and not sure, and this is mental maths quickly, so bear with me, not sure makes up the difference, so about 13 or 14%. Panel, any thoughts from that in terms of what we've just heard?
I'm delighted to hear that so many of you think that mobile is going to be important. For the 7% that said no, I hope you've retired already. because you're in it's bad news for you if you think the mobile is not relevant to you and not relevant to your business. Then you're fooling yourself. And I'm not doing the kind of internet.com thing where you're trying to run around telling everyone the sky is falling and if you don't have a website. But mobile is a massive part of our lives and is only going to get bigger. It's not going to go backwards. In terms of the other numbers, I'm quite surprised to hear so many businesses are saying that they've got a mobile strategy already. Surprised, but also delighted to hear that. And, for those that haven't, come and ask me and let's see what we can do to help you.
Yeah, I mean, similar to Paul, the stats are in favour that we should be doing it and doing more. And if you're not, then it's sort of, why not? And I think for me, the point is, well, if that's just talking about smartphones, then okay, that's great. But you need to be thinking about tablets as well. So tablet is coming, and it's going to be exploding now, but more so in probably the next year, 2 years. And we are going to see less people going into John Lewis and buying desktops. It is going to be a tablet world. So it's okay to think, okay, I need to get mobile, but actually you need to get tablet as well, because ultimately you've got to be everywhere where your customers want to engage with you. And if you're not, then that's going to really hurt.
I guess I would just echo points made earlier, which is it's not easy. So, but you've got to stick at it. I mean, even working at a mobile company, I did a huge amount. I spent 2 years persuading senior people that mobile as a channel was really worth investing in. And we finally completed our shop build only 2 weeks ago. So you can now purchase mobile phones as a new acquisition customer through a mobile optimized site. Upgrades we did last year, resounding success. So I know how difficult it is, but it is vitally important. And the point on tablets really there, and they come in all shapes and sizes. So it's a real challenge for your technology departments or your technology partners. So if you feel like you're working with technology people who don't get mobile, you need to find some new technologists, because it's absolutely vital you get the right skill sets in your hands and in your teams to make it work.
Okay, thank you. Just so really to reflect and repeat Paul's sentiment around time invested in media spend, or time invested versus media spend by device. Mobile is very much still a dark art, but more and more businesses in the UK are getting how to understand the role that mobile plays, especially when it complements other media. And as that journey towards a purchase or an engagement occurs on mobile or in store or online, understanding the role that mobile has played as part of influencing that purchase decision or that engagement decision is probably the most important thing that we're looking at Google, and really helping all brands and retailers understand what they should be doing to weight and put a value on that mobile time spent, not necessarily by reflecting the amount of time versus the amount of budget spent, but understanding what role mobile plays along with all channels is really what we're trying to focus on and deliver for our partners.
Excellent. Okay, and I think, other than Paul, I posed you that question earlier. I was going slightly broader than tablet. I'm interested, just like kind of closing comment really, was Nick struggled with the demo because technology was playing against Nick, because it always happens in a live audience. But actually what we were seeing is audio on a smartphone. It's not necessarily the best way of a smartphone, but we're starting to see mobile devices in terms of smart goggles or smart glasses. Is that where we're going, that we're just going to see more mobile technology, not necessarily pocket-based phone? There's a whole evolution to come.
Next time you ask us to speak, perhaps the four of us will talk to you about the Internet of Everything and the omni-channel future, and that's probably the point to leave it at.
Provocative, Paul. Thank you very much. So round of applause to Nick, to Sarah, to Andy and Paul. Thank you so much, guys.